Hi everyone. So today we're going to be reading Stitch or Treat from the 7 days of Lilo and Stitch stories, and this is the Halloween edition with absolutely pretty pictures. So I'll start reading. Happy Halloween, Lilo shouted as Stitch entered the kitchen one Saturday morning. While Nanny, Lilo's sister, made breakfast. Halloween, Stitch asked. He had never heard of Halloween before. It's one of my favourite holidays, Lilo explained. It's a day where everybody dresses up and eats sweets. Don't worry, I'll tell you everything there is to know. I wrote a checklist for us, Lilo said. While Stitch ate his breakfast, she held up a piece of paper. It has all the steps we need to complete to have the perfect Halloween, Lilo explained, more as they went up to her bedroom. First, we need to find you a costume. On Halloween, we get to wear costumes and pretend we're someone or something else. Like how I'm a witch, Lilo explained. As they went up to her bedroom, Stitch thought for a second before racing around Lilo's room. He put on a lampshade. A blanket costume, he asked. A Halloween costume should make you feel special, Lilo said. Does it make you feel special? Stitch shook his head. The pair spent the rest of the morning trying to find the perfect Halloween costume for Stitch. They attempted one outfit after the next, but no costume just fit right. Finally, they found something that made him feel special. Steps for a perfect Halloween: make costumes. Lilo and Stitch headed back downstairs. Now it's time for pumpkin carving, Lilo proclaimed. On Halloween, we like to turn pumpkins into jack-o'-lanterns by giving them faces. With Nanny's help, Lilo cut a nose, eyes, and mouth into her pumpkin, then showed it to Stitch. Now you try, Lilo said. Stitch did his best, but his jack-o'-lantern looked a little different from Lilo's. Still, Lilo clapped her hands. Great job, Stitch. Why don't you do another one? I have just the pumpkin. Lilo and Stitch and Nanny outside a large pumpkin. Lilo led Stitch and Nanny outside to a large pumpkin by the porch. Okay, Stitch. Try using this. Lilo handed Stitch his blaster, and then she held up her jack-o'-lantern for reference. Stitch shot lasers at the pumpkins. When he was done, Stitch smiled. Whoa, Lilo exclaimed. That looks amazing. Once they had finished carving pumpkins, Nana and her friend David took Lilo and Stitch into town. Every shop window was decorated in honor of the big Halloween celebration taking place. Stitch had never seen the shops look so ghostly. We have to work at the convenience store for an hour, so don't get into trouble, okay? Nana said. We won't, promised Lilo. Lilo turned to Stitch with her list. Now it's time for the best part of Halloween. Trick or treating, Lilo exclaimed. That is where we knock on doors and say trick or treat to get sweets. Trick, trick? Stitch jumped up and down in excitement. Tricks are fun, Lilo said, but remember the most important part is the sweets. As Stitch followed Lilo, he was still thinking about the tricks. Lilo approached the first shop and knocked. The shopkeeper opened the door and greeted them with a bowl of delicious-looking sweets. Lilo held out her bag. "Trick or trick," Stitch shouted. He jumped in front of Lilo and transformed so that all 6 of his limbs waggled wildly. The shopkeeper shrieked, slammed the door, and bolted the lock. The pair headed to the next shop with their empty sweet bags. "Don't forget the treat part of Trick or Treat and Stitch. Remember, it's more important to get lots of sweets," Lilo said. Stitch nodded, but something else has caught his eye. After passing through a crowd, Lilo realised Stitch was gone. "Stitch, where'd you go?" Just then she heard a scream and suspected that Stitch had something to do with it. Try as he might, Stitch couldn't resist tricking people, and Lilo still hadn't received any sweets at all. Sighing, Lilo decided she didn't want to trick or treat anymore. Once she was alone, Lilo took out her list. She had been so close to having the perfect Halloween. If only Stitch hadn't gone and ruined it with his mischief. Now there's no way she would be able to complete her checklist. Just then, a scary shadow fell across Lilo's path. But it was only Stitch standing on a pile of sweets. "Treat," he offered. He wanted to fix what he had done and make Halloween special for Lilo. "Stitch, this is amazing," Lilo cheered. "But how did you get all these sweets for us?" Stitch gave her a guilty look. Back on the main street, Lilo noticed no one else had any sweets. "Stitch, you can't just trick everyone and steal their sweets. Sweets have to be given," said Lilo. "But perfect Halloween?" he asked. Lilo knew Stitch had meant well in trying to make her Halloween the best one ever. She also knew they had to make Halloween right for everyone else. If only they could figure out how. Just then, Stitch had an idea and raced away. He returned a few minutes later with his spaceship. They could use it to drop sweets into people's bags. Before Lilo knew they were flying over the little town and shooting the sweets out over the islanders who collected them and rejoiced. Lilo was having a blast, putting smiles on so many faces. "Best Halloween ever," Lilo told Stitch.